Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel So Little Time, and my name is Karen. So I hope you're all doing really well, and thank you very much for joining me today. Today I'm here to share with you one of my most recent makes, which is for the Felicity Fabrics blog. I blog for them, and this year I am blogging for the month of February, the month of love, as it were, and I was planning on making a sort of outfit specifically for Valentine's, but it hasn't worked out that way, purely because the fabric I initially chose did unfortunately go out of stock, so it was quite popular. So yeah, I have gone ahead with the make that I wanted to make, but I've just used a completely different fabric. Now, I am filming this video in two parts, so I'm filming today my toile version of this make, and if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen this popping up quite frequently as I've been sharing the process of me making it, and I really am over the moon with how this make has turned out. It's a really popular pattern, and I'm probably thinking you can guess what I'm wearing. It is the Paper Theory Zadie Jumpsuit, and it has taken the sewing community by storm. It's definitely one of those makes that people seem to make again and again, and I've heard lots and lots of stories about the fact that it's a really quick and easy make, and I don't know why, I just didn't feel the need to go ahead and make it when everybody else was, but I am probably one of the last people to have made this pattern, and I have to say that I am definitely jumping on with the bandwagon with the fact that it is a really simple sew and it sews up really quickly. And I do think that it is such a versatile pattern as well. You can make it in various fabrics and it fits all sorts of different body shapes and body types, and I'm so pleased with how my version has turned out. But on reading all of the reviews on Instagram, I did hear that obviously the crotch does come fairly low, and a lot of people had taken some amount out of the rise, and also they had sized down by 2 sizes according to their body measurements and stuff like that. So I did have a look through all of the makes on Instagram before I decided to go ahead with my make, and I decided to make a toile for this reason before cutting into the beautiful fabric that Felicity Fabrics have sent me. So I ended up making the size 10, and I haven't really made any alterations to that. The only alteration I have made is just to add a little bit of length onto the leg length, and I will add more onto my official version in the Felicity Fabrics fabric. So yeah, I used some fabric which I had bought off a D-stash, and this is a quilting cotton fabric which I think initially came from the Sew Hayley Jane subscription box, and I think in the subscription box you usually get about 2 to 2.5 meters worth of fabric in the classic subscription box, so I think that is what this was. And the amount of fabric that you would usually need to make the Zadie jumpsuit is probably about, I'd say, 3 meters, because the bias binding that you put around the neckline is actually obviously cut on the bias. So I didn't quite have that amount of fabric to do that. So I did still use the same fabric for my bias binding, but I didn't actually put it on the bias. I put it on a very slight angle, so it still had a very slight bit of stretch to it, but not enough stretch to what you would need to use for a neckline usually. But it's worked out absolutely fine, so you can get away with doing it not on the bias. Maybe not quite on the straight grain, but I did it just at a very, very slight angle, probably like that, rather than, like this. But yes, let me get into the make itself then. So initially I did cut out a size 12 for the bottom half, and I cut out the size 10, and I was trying to grade between the two around my sort of waist and hip area. But whilst I was doing that, I just decided that I think I'm just going to go for the straight size 10. Something was telling me that I just needed to do that, and I am really, really pleased that I have done that, because I do feel that the fit on this is really, really nice for me. Now, it is supposed to be sort of an oversized style, but I have always preferred closer fitting garments on myself, because I do have a very classic pear-shaped body where my hips are so much bigger than the rest of me, and I didn't want anything to sort of swamp that area, making me look bigger than I am. And yeah, I just prefer that look on me. Just for personal preference really. So as you can see, I have got a cami top underneath mine because I have found that it is a little bit booby on me, and I was actually discussing this with Angela from Devon Thread Tales, and she's made a size 10 in the bodice and graded to a size 8 on the hip area, because she is significantly smaller on her hips than myself, but we are actually the same bust measurement, and I've come up a little bit more booby with this top than she has, and we were having this discussion. It was quite funny, and this is actually something that I learned whilst I was making my Dressmakers ball dress a couple of years ago. Is that my breasts are actually quite close together. I don't have much gap in between, so I do get that cleavage line on lots of garments. Not something that I like personally on myself, so that's the reason why I've put a cami top on underneath, just to sort of cover that area. But if I wanted to size up to the size 12 over the top, I probably would get a little bit more wrap over. But I think when it comes to the summertime, I probably won't be as bothered about it as I am now, whilst it is still a little bit cooler, because I do think with this being a quilting cotton, I do believe this is a quilting cotton because it does feel a little bit more heavier weight than a cotton poplin, that it's warm enough to wear for this time of year. Anyway, let me show you how the jumpsuit has turned out. So it's got this lovely crossover detail here, and this is bias bound around the whole of the neckline. I've used the short sleeve version of the pattern. You can have long sleeves as well, and you just literally overlock that and turn that under and top stitch it down. And then the waist is tied up with this waist tie, which actually feeds through a hole in the right side of the bodice here. It's got pleats on the actual legs at the top here and at the back, and then it's got these lovely deep pockets as well. So I've got it fitting just right. Now, I did make a slight change actually, I tell a lie. I took 1 inch out of the rise after hearing all of these situations with an MC Hammer kind of crotch, and as you can see, the crotch on me is sitting literally right underneath. So with that inch taken out, I think I didn't need to take that much out. So on my next one, I'm going to be taking just ½ an inch out. So just to give me a little bit more room down the bottom, because although it's not bum hungry, it certainly is snugger around that area than it should be. Now, if I stand back, you will see that the length on me is just slightly cropped, not as cropped as it should be, because I've added 3 inches onto the length. On my next version, I will add 5 inches onto the length because I do want it to be a little bit longer, and the only reason I add 3 onto this one is purely because of the amount of fabric that I had. I just didn't have enough to add 5 inches on, so that's what I will do with my next one. I'll show you the back as well. So the back is actually cut in 2 pieces, so there is a seam line down the back, and I'm guessing that's to create for the curvature of your spine, that kind of thing. And so that fits really, really nicely. I was considering actually doing a sway back adjustment on this because I was watching Adele from Sofa Serenity. She had made this and she said that she'd made a sway back adjustment on hers. And I know that is sort of an alteration that I should be making on a lot of my garments, and I haven't done so as yet. And it is something that I want to nail this year. But I didn't end up doing that on this one, because I was a little bit worried about doing it. For one, I need to investigate it a little bit more and see how it's done. And with taking the amount out of the rise, I do think it's probably taken that away. If maybe I would have had excess there if I'd have had that extra inch added in. But yeah, it seems to be sitting fine. So I'll show you. It sits quite nicely into my back. I don't have any excess whatsoever. Yeah, this is a really quick and simple make for sure. You just need to make sure that you add all of the markings onto your top, onto your garment before obviously sewing it together, so you can make sure that you pivot in the right area and stop sewing in the right area. The only fiddly bit about this make was the bias binding attachment. You actually make your own bias binding using the pattern piece that they give you, and then you fold it literally around the raw edge of the fabric and then just top stitch it down so it goes through both layers of the bias binding, which was absolutely fine going around the neckline and around the crossover parts here because they're fairly straight lines. But when you get down to sort of this area, there's a curve in the way the bodice is, and you attach the ties into there as well, and that was a little bit fiddly to attach it, but certainly not, obviously not doable. But yeah, it was a little bit fiddly. But I think if I'd have had perhaps the bias binding actually cut on the bias, then it would have perhaps gone in a little bit easier for me, because getting it around that corner was a little bit of a struggle. But yeah, it's fine. I've got Thomas here. He's just come in to say hello. Do you want to say hello? I'll lift you up. Say hello.
Hello.
Right. Yes, Daddy's gone out, hasn't he, on call again. He's on call, and we've had loads of rain and floods this week, so he has been out and about quite a lot this week, unfortunately. So anyway, without further ado, I am now going to switch this video over to another day where I'll be trying on my official version in the beautiful fabric that Felicity Fabrics have given me, and I will share any differences that I found with the fabric, because it's a cotton lawn fabric, so it is slightly lighter weight. And obviously with that added change of just the ½ an inch taken out of the rise rather than the inch, and the leg length lengthened by an extra 2 inches, I will share those details with you. So I shall see you on the other side. Bye.
Bye.
Right, so different day, different hair. I've basically had the perm cut out of my hair. As some of you may have been following on my videos, I've had a bit of breakage with my hair since having the perm. So I decided to cut it out because I wasn't happy with how it was looking, and I decided just to lop it off to a length where it's looking much, much healthier, and I've got only a little bit of perm left in it, and I will consider regrowing it in the future basically. So I'm just going to keep it at this length for a little while because there is still a little bit of the perm in it and I need to get rid of that completely, and then I'll be back to basically my own natural hair without any chemical on it. But anyway, I'm here to share with you then my official Zadie jumpsuit, and the fabric has been kindly gifted to me by Felicity Fabrics in return for a blog post, and I will link that in the description box below for you if you did want to check that out. I just have done a full write-up of my experience with this pattern, and there is some photos included in that as well. So the one that I made previously, I obviously only made a slight few adjustments to it, and that was to take 1 inch out of the rise and to add about 3 inches onto the leg length. So with this one, I only have taken 1/2 inch out of the rise and I've added 6 inches onto the leg length. I was going to do 5 initially, but I felt like adding an extra inch just to err on the side of caution, but I have actually done 1 inch hem allowance on the bottom of the leg, so I'm glad I've added that length. And I also have added a little bit more length onto the waist tie because I did find that that came up quite short once you'd wrapped it around a couple of times around your waist. Now, I absolutely love this fabric colourway. It is absolutely beautiful and I really like all of the colours in it, and I feel that it's complementary to my hair and skin tone. If some of you have watched my previous video, you will have known that I've had my colours done by Radiantly Me, which is Chelsea. And she comes to my sewing group, and so I have my colours done with her, and I've just initially done the express service, but I am looking to have the full service done in the future. But basically my colour palette came out as clear, which is where I can wear bright colours and things. So I feel this is quite bright, and I really do think it is complementary to my skin and hair. So I absolutely love this fabric. However, it's a cotton lawn, which does crease quite easy, unfortunately. And in this style of garment, I do feel like I am going to get quite a lot of crease around sort of the crotch and leg area where I will be sitting down and that kind of thing. So I think that that's going to show the creases quite a lot. I was considering wearing this to the wedding that I'm going to at the end of this month, but I've changed my mind purely because of that crease factor, because I know that if we have any photos taken and all I can see is the creases, I'm going to pick the photos apart. So I think I'm going to be wearing a dress, hopefully the dress that's on my mannequin in the background, which is my Dressmakers ball dress from last year. However, if my jacket doesn't fit over the top of that because of the full skirt, I am in the process of making something else as a fallback option, basically. Anyway, so I will share with you what this jumpsuit looks like. So what I did find actually is the attaching of the bias binding on this fabric I found a lot more fiddly than I did on my previous version. And I do prefer how my previous version looks, just because I feel the fit looks better, and I feel this one doesn't seem to fit as well. It must be the fabric because I haven't changed anything else other than the rise. So yeah, attaching that was really quite fiddly. So I used all my clips to hold that into place, but going around this curve area, although it was already fiddly on my previous version, on this one it was even more of a fiddle. So as you can see, I've lengthened the ties so they are a little bit longer, so I've got a lot more to wrap around my waist, and that obviously feeds through a little hole in the side here. It's got lovely deep pockets, as you saw on my other one, and then if I pan you down a little bit more so you can see the full length of this jumpsuit. So as you can see, I've done it so it's just sitting on top of my trainers. So I don't think I could wear this with high heels because I think it would look slightly strange with the wide leg, if I'm honest. And also as well, I think it would come up slightly short if I was to wear heels with it. So if I wanted to dress this up, I would probably wear it with flat ballet pumps. Yeah, so again, it's got the sort of pleats in the back here, and that's on the bodice as well, and then on the front there's some pleats here as well. They're sort of like semi-darts in a way. Yeah, so I mean, I do really like this jumpsuit, and I think it is a dressier version in comparison to my first one, which was my toile, but my toile will get, I think, a lot more wear, just because I feel it is easier to wear. It feels more comfortable, and it has a little bit of stretch in it in that fabric as well. This does have a little bit of stretch as well, but because it's slippy, it just feels completely different. But I do think it's going to be nice to wear during the sort of warmer months, which are obviously coming our way very soon. Yeah, I just think it's going to be the crease factor that I'm not going to like about it. So I wish this fabric would have been on a sort of just standard cotton base. I think that would have been really nice. But yeah, I do really like it. It will get worn, but I think I prefer my other one in the way it feels and fits on me in comparison to this one. But I do like this one as well, and it will get worn. That's probably a really long-winded way around of saying which one I prefer and which one I don't, but I do really like this one. It's just, yeah, my other one just feels just slightly more comfortable. So I'm just going to pan you down again because I don't feel that you got much of a look at it there. So yeah, it crosses over exactly the same as my other one. I've still got the vest top on underneath it. Again, in the summer months, I will probably take that off. As you can see, I do have that cleavage line there, but I think in the summer I might not be so bothered about that, and if I have a bit more of a tan, it seems to take away from that a little bit, if that makes sense. It's got these little pleat details here as well, and that just gives enough room for like movement and things like that. Now the waist seam is actually here, and when I tie the waist tie, it seems to want to come up a bit further, and I think that's because the fabric is a little bit slippy, and maybe my natural waist is slightly higher, because that's where my sort of waist is, right there, and the waist seam is here, so I feel like it's slightly low. I haven't noticed that on my other one, but that's perhaps because the fabric isn't as slippy, so the waist tie doesn't seem to creep up as easily. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I still feel like it is fitting really nicely. It does feel more roomy than my other one, although it doesn't look all that much different in the way I'm wearing it. The crotch is obviously half an inch lower, which feels like it's in the same place as my other one, which is really bizarre. So I don't know whether I needed to take that half an inch out at all, really. It's the other one I've been wearing on a regular basis, and to be honest, it fits me absolutely fine. And I don't find that when I'm walking around and bending down or sitting down, it does not creep up my bum or anything like that. It's initially I just thought, oh gosh, you know, it was a bit of a wiggle to get into it, but in actual fact it's actually fine, and this one is fine as well. So yeah, I don't think really there was that much difference in that half an inch that I put back in, really. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you think. Which one do you prefer? I'd be interested to know. And yeah, I haven't wore this actually like for a full day yet, so it's going to be interesting to see how much it creases. I'm planning on wearing it tomorrow, as tomorrow is my year anniversary for my sewing social. Well, it was actually last week, but we're doing the celebratory session tomorrow, so we're having an extra long session and we're having some food. Everybody's bringing some food to share, so that's going to be really nice. And I am planning on wearing this just to see how I get on with it, and how much it creases, so I'm just going to be interested. So I will report back on that on a future video. And also as well, where this crossover is, because it is a slightly slippier material, I think it's probably going to move around a little bit more. I would like to buy a couple more vest tops to go underneath, so not just a white one. I would like to get something that complements this, and also my other one as well. I'd like to get a navy one for my other one, just so it blends in a little bit more, because I do feel that, I don't know, white's just, I don't really like white. So I think, yeah, maybe a different colour underneath there, even if it was like this sort of greeny colour, really, if I could get hold of one. I'm not planning on making one, they're just too cheap to buy. So yeah, anyway, that is my review of the Zadie jumpsuit. I know it's been a really popular pattern in the sewing community, and I know a lot of you have made it already. If you haven't, we'll say it is a really quick and easy make. It's just the fiddly binding to contend with. But I suppose if you shop bought bias binding, it might be a little bit easier to attach, but that would give a contrast potentially, depending on what fabric you are using. Just because I find that shop bought is a little bit stiffer than when you make your own. But yeah, overall a really nice sew and a really easy pattern, and one that I think will get a lot of wear. So yeah, anyway, thank you very much for watching today. Please give this video a like if you have enjoyed it, and also consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. That would be really lovely. So thank you very much for your support, and I shall see you soon. Take care. Bye.